Well, Lisa, thank you so much for being here with me on the Entrepreneurial Success Podcast. I'm really excited to have you here. We've got some topics that we're going to talk about that really touches the heart for all of us. But before we get started, why don't you just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do?
No, thank you so much for having me here. So my name is Lisa Moore and I run a business called Fit for More. It's a bit of a play on words. And I am predominantly a health and mindset coach. But I've been in the fitness industry for a very long time. My focus really is on helping women in their 40s and beyond to allow themselves to put themselves first, grow their confidence, grow their motivation without feeling guilty. Because women, especially that age, we tend to feel guilty about things because we're pulled in all directions. Yeah. So for me, health is the one thing that underpins everything. So I really focus on health, but healthy mindset, healthy body, and healthy soul.
Yeah, and it's so important to have all of those aspects working together. In particular, like you said, for us as women, we do put ourselves through so much stress and pressure, which is really not actually needed. We just do it without even thinking about it. Yeah. How did you get started in business, though? What was that real pinnacle point for you for going into this kind of fitness industry? And how did that evolve to where you are now?
I'll give you the short version because it's a long story. So I've been involved in fitness for a very long time, since I was 17. That was because we had a lodger who was very fit, who took the mickey out of me and said I was useless. So I joined a gym, and that sort of led me on the journey. And I got into, did my personal training qualifications, started teaching, and that's always been there. I worked in a bank, then I worked in the corporate world. And then when I sort of got into my early 30s, I had my first daughter. And at that stage, it was a case of going back to work in the corporate world or doing something else. And fate intervened and allowed me to sort of not have that job anymore. And that's when I really focused on starting the fitness business. And I did a diploma in craniosacral therapy as well. So there's a real holistic side to what I do. And initially it was more about, it was something to bring some money in. I didn't really think of it as a business, but I got divorced when I was 40. And that was when I was forced to really think about this and make that decision of, okay, so am I going to carry on my own, or am I going to go back to corporate life, get a job? And at that point, it didn't feel like going back into the corporate world was possible or was the right thing to do, because I was living with my parents. I didn't have any other money. My father wasn't very well, and I had 2 small children that needed looking after. So I decided that I could do it myself, and that's how I started Fit for More.
Amazing. And I think what the people can resonate with your story is how, out of situations of your life, you got to a point where you could make a decision. And I think that's really important to understand, because we all have control of our minds. We all have control about what decisions we make in life. And you just used whatever the circumstances were and said, okay, well, now I've got to make a decision. And one decision led to another, and that's how you evolved, and that's how you grow. And I mean, look at you now. You're fantastic at what you're doing. And you and I already had a chat before. And it's just so fascinating to see how you've evolved in what you've done from those small beginnings, as they say.
Yeah, it's amazing, actually. And I don't think any of us spend enough time sort of looking back to see how far we've come. You know, it's like we're looking at those footsteps in the snow. It's only when you look back and you go, oh my goodness, look how far we've come. Because I think especially when you're in business, you're constantly focusing on the future. You're looking forward. What's next? What do I need to do now? But when I truly look back and see how far I've come, I'm a different person, definitely. And I know we're going to talk about confidence and motivation. So, you know, you look at me that long ago, 10 years ago, I was not confident. I was not motivated. I did not believe in myself. It's been a long journey, definitely.
Yeah. But I think that also, you know, anybody who's listening or watching this can relate to that and realize that, oh yeah, if I look back at my life, It's exactly the same. When I started out, I had no confidence. I had no motivation, and how that has evolved and how we all build up that confidence, that experience in our lives. So let's talk a little bit about confidence, because I think this is one of those things that if somebody is listening to this now, they go like, okay, well, I know I need to build up my confidence, but I didn't even know how to start, how to do it. You know, what are the little things that I can really put in place? So tell us a little bit about your take on confidence.
I think confidence is interesting. When you look at it, we are all confident in the things that we are comfortable with. So the things that we aren't confident about are the things that we've maybe not done before, or we deem to be hard, or we're not experienced at. That's when we tend to feel less confident. The classic for me was public speaking. And I worked in an account management for an IT company for many years. So in sales, working with big corporate companies like Pfizer, Marks and Spencer, and I avoided public speaking completely. I don't know how I got away with it, but I didn't. I think I must have given 2 presentations in that whole period, which must have been about 7 or 8 years, because I didn't feel confident in what I was doing, so I avoided it. But in the last 10 years, running my own business, it was a case of, do you know, how am I going to get people to know who I am? I need to get better at public speaking. So confidence comes from, you have to make, it's a bit like we talked about earlier, you have to make that decision to do it. And you have to recognize that it's baby steps, and it will feel uncomfortable, and you will get it wrong, and you will feel like an idiot. But every single time you do it, you get better and you grow. You know, it's like learning to ride a bike. It's like learning to ride a horse. You know, every little step takes you closer to where you want to be. And then gradually what happens is that comfortable area expands to include the next thing. So your comfort zone, and then you suddenly become confident in that. So, you know, now I could say I'm confident and I'd be happy to speak to a room of 200 people maybe, but if you put me in Wembley Arena, I'd be petrified, because that's taking it to the next level.
Yeah, I love your explanation of it, because I use a similar analogy when I explain confidence to my audience and to my clients. I always say that, you know, in order for every actionable step you take forward, or let me rephrase that, every actionable step you take forward, whether it's a big step, a small step, you get a reward. And if you think about in that sense, it's like, oh, I get a reward if I take this step. Well, that reward is really just the confidence. Let's say, for example, you had to go and reach out to a client or to a potential client, but you were so worried about doing that. If you just take that initial step and just reach out to them, you're going to feel so good that you've actually done it, which means that your confidence is building, and you're going to feel, well, this wasn't so bad. The walls didn't cave in, lightning didn't strike. I can do it again. And it's like you're saying, your confident, your comfort zone is really just expanding with every little step you're taking. You get more comfortable and then it expands. You get more comfortable and then it expands. And I love that, because it works so well with what I am teaching my clients. And you just proved it again.
If I take it into the personal training gym scenario, and some of the ladies that I used to see would come to me and they'd never exercise. You know, they'd come to me in their sort of late 40s, early 50s maybe, and would admit, you know, I've never done any exercise, I've never done anything. And suddenly they're in this environment, they're thinking, oh, what's she going to make me do? But it was slowly, you know, right, let's do this. And teaching them simple things like how to do a squat properly. But suddenly I would see them grow into these amazing women that yeah, they didn't care what they did, and they felt confident in their bodies, and so much better.
Yeah. And it just starts with making that first initial decision and then taking the step. That's all it is. So how does motivation work hand in hand then with confidence?
Well, motivation is interesting, because I have this conversation a lot with my clients, and they're like, oh, I just don't feel motivated. How can I get motivated? Or what they'll do is they'll say, when I get to X, then I will feel motivated. The thing is, motivation doesn't come to us. Motivation, if you break down the word, into two different words. So if you make it into motive and action, I know it's slightly different, but motive action. First of all, you need to know, why do you want to do what you want to do? So why do you want to achieve that particular goal? And it's quite often, I find it's not the initial answer. The classic, I want to lose weight because I want to feel better in my, I want to wear decent clothes. Actually, if you go a little bit deeper, and I go through a process with my clients, you go really, really deep. The real reason behind it could be something as simple as, like, I want to be back in control of my life. I want to be adored. I want to be seen. When you get really, really deep and connect with your why, then you have more of a motive. So that will help you when the going gets tough. But the only real way to get motivation is to take action. And it's similar in some ways to the confidence thing, is that you have to start. And we all know that feeling, when your house is a mess and it's, you just think, oh God. But once you start, then this really weird thing happens, doesn't it? You're suddenly like, I'm going to clean the windows, I'm going to wash the skirting boards, I'm going to, I'm going to go out in the garden and dig up all the weeds. You create this momentum, you create this feeling, and that's how motivation comes.
Yeah.
So you have to take the action. But if you don't have the motive with the action, when it gets tough, that's when sometimes you can fall off the side and go, can't do it. And then you go back into that perpetual feeling of, when I feel motivated, I'm going to do it.
Yeah. I love the example you use about people saying, well, if I get X, then I'll get motivated to do that. Where actually it is not about getting it, it's about creating it. You've got to create it yourself. It comes from inside of you. Yeah. And I've got another example, something that I've shared before with my audience, but this is a silly example. A couple of weeks ago, actually, I had to sit down and write an email sequence for my audience. And I just didn't feel like doing it. And I felt like I don't have the motivation to sit and do this.
Yeah.
So instead of forcing myself to do this, I thought, okay, what is it that I really want to do now that will excite me, that will make me feel energetic? And I thought, I'd actually go and love and work in my garden. And even though it was cold, it was rainy, and I was like, yeah, but I want to go and spend some time in my garden. So I spent an hour in my garden, just trimming some weeds, walking through, just doing the little things that we all do. And then when I came back and sat in the office, I was like, oh my gosh, I've got all these ideas now. I know exactly what I'm going to do. That motivation was there for me to write the email sequence, and the energy was there with how I wanted to put that energy through, how I wanted to present that email sequence to my audience. But if I sat there and I forced myself to motivate it with the wrong energy, I don't think that email sequence would have actually captured the audience's attention the way I wanted it to.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely, that's such a great example, because I think we do try and force ourselves. We have this, this should list. I should do this, I should do this. And you sort of force yourself to sit there and wait for things to happen. But actually, sometimes you need to sort of park it and go do something that does make you feel good. And I think your example of going outside is particularly important. I encourage my clients all the time, get out there, get outside in nature. I have the best ideas when I'm out walking my dog.
Yes.
I write the best emails in my head, the best blog posts, I speak the best lives. So quite often I will, I'll do a Facebook Live when I'm walking the dog, because it pops into your head and these creative ideas. And you're right, it's that energy, it's being in that right vibration.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that segues very nicely into the other thing we want to talk about is letting go of the guilt. Because for me, starting working in my business in the beginning stage, if I didn't force myself to sit and write that email sequence, I would feel so guilty and think, what's wrong with you? Why can't you just sit and do this work? Where now I realize that it's about my energy. It's about how I feel at that moment in time. And guilt is on the back burner. I don't even care about that, because I don't feel guilty in the decisions I'm making. I feel that my feelings are guiding me into the decisions that I need to make sometimes, and I need to listen and honor those.
Yeah. And with guilt's terrible, because it sucks your energy away from you. It's such a negative feeling. And what guilt does, it sort of perpetuates these stories that we're telling ourselves. And you know, the example of where you feel guilty because you haven't done something, it's like the only person that's feeling that guilt is you. Nobody else out there is thinking that. But we create these stories in our head. So you know, you might have been creating that story, or if I don't do that, then I'm going to let people down, and then they're going to think that I'm useless, and they don't think I'm good enough, and oh my god, then they will unfriend me, and then they won't talk to me, and we create this huge story about what people are thinking. And quite frankly, nobody is thinking anything because they're too much in their heads as well, thinking about what other people are thinking about them.
Exactly. And also, I mean, if you start with guilt, because most of us do, I mean, that's a horrible feeling, that guilt that you have. And the more you feel guilty, the more it starts spiraling out of control. The more you create those thoughts of, oh my gosh, what if this, and then this leads to this, and this leads, and before you know it, you're just in a zone that, like you said, is completely draining your energy. And I think what I would like to say, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong here, but for the audience listening, is when you do catch yourself going through an emotion of guilt, or catching yourself feeling not very good at that moment in time, you need to swing it around. You need to kind of get yourself out of that position before it starts spiraling out of control and making you feeling even worse and worse and worse. Because when you're feeling bad, your energy is not at the right level in order to do the work that you want to do, whether in business or in your life or in your family, it doesn't matter. So you need to zone in a little bit more on your feelings. How
Absolutely.
are you feeling? Catch it, swing it around into something positive.
Yeah. And I use this process with my clients so I get them to do 3 questions. I suggest it's quite good to do this at the end of the day, but you can do it any time of the day. So you ask yourself, how do I feel? But I would suggest you do it from a physical point of view and an emotional point of view. So, you know, how do I feel physically? Oh, my shoulders are really tight, my jaw's tight. I feel like I'm biting my tongue, my tummy's churning, I've got a headache. But then you say, how do I feel from an emotional point of view? And it's like, I feel angry, I feel frustrated, I feel guilty, I feel bad, I feel rubbish. There is a connection between the physical and emotional. So that the tension that you're feeling in your jaw and your mouth and your shoulders is actually because of the emotions you're feeling. So once you're aware of that, and I suggest people write it down, however they want to write it down, it doesn't matter. And then you go on to the next question is, what do I need? And again, you do it from a physical and emotional, because maybe from a physical point of view, going back to your example earlier, you need to just get out in the garden and pull some weeds out of the ground.
Yes, needed that exercise to get the blood pumping.
Or, you know, maybe you need a hug, or maybe you do need to cry, or maybe you need to just swear over and over and over and over again. It doesn't matter. But then take it to the emotional level is like, what do you need? Well, maybe you need to trust yourself more. Maybe you need to have faith. Maybe you need to believe. Maybe you need to dream. So that you know, I think those 2 questions on their own can really help you when you feel stuck. And then the last one that I suggest that you do at the end of the day is gratitude. You know, it's the, what am I grateful for today, or what made me smile, what's good in my life, however you want to do it, but don't force it. Because I think the problem with these gratitude lists is that we're forced into, we've got to think of 10 things. No, you don't. You can think of one thing, and it could be as simple as the fact that I'm in bed now and I can go to sleep in a minute. You can be grateful for that.
Yeah, I love that example as well, because as you said that, something popped into my head. I think it was on Monday. I just sat here in the office and I did a little bit of meditation because I was going on a coaching call. And I was just really in a great zone at that moment. And then I finished the meditation, I opened up my eyes and I looked out of the window. And it was cloudy, but the sun was shining through the clouds, creating all these beautiful beams of light, like dark beams, light beams. And it was just everywhere. And I was just absolutely, at that moment in time, I just felt gratitude. I didn't force it. It was just there. And you know what? The most amazing thing happened when I had that call. That kind of feeling, that kind of gratitude just came through on that coaching call. And everything about that call was just perfect. in so many ways, not just for me, but for the receiver as well, for the person on the other side. We had the most amazing conversation, and that stood out for me because I haven't had an amazing conversation like that in a long time. I mean, I have great conversations, but that one just stood out for me. And I think it's like you said, because when you finish the day, or even when you start the day with gratitude, it really opens up your heart and opens up your mind into connect with so much more energy and so much more abundance than you ever would have thought possible.
Yeah, it does. And it has a, there's a physiological thing that goes on. It creates a different environment in the body with those chemicals, with those hormones. And we forget sometimes that, our body is, it's a piece of science. It's chemical. And actually, it's almost like you put the wrong chemical into a car and it doesn't go very well, but you put the right chemical into a car and it does go very well. It's the same with our bodies. You feed your body with good thoughts, happy thoughts, kind thoughts, and those hormones will change.
Yeah.
Your brain chemistry will change.
And I think that segues nicely into living a healthy lifestyle as well, which is something else that you're very passionate about, because that's how you started. So for anybody that is feeling, okay, we've spoken about the emotional, what about the physical? What is it that we need to do in order to live a healthy lifestyle?
The one simple word is move. I think, as a personal trainer and working, I've worked in fitness and helped people with their exercise for a long time. What really frustrates me more than anything is this. It goes back to that should thing, isn't it? It's like, you should do HIIT training, you should do aerobics, you should do boxing, you should do weight training, you should do Pilates, you should do, it's like, do you know what? The most important thing is move.
Yeah.
Move often and move well. So moving well, whatever that means to you. So yes, stretching is really important. And you can do that with Pilates, yoga, or just actually sticking your arms in the air. But I think thinking about the importance of your health is something that we don't often think about. And I think those women, 40 plus, they've got families, they've got careers, they've got jobs, maybe they've got businesses, maybe they've got relationship problems. Health goes right down to the bottom, and everything else has to be done in between. And actually, I think we need to bring it round, and health needs to become part of who that person is. And it doesn't have to be difficult. Just standing up and stretching, or putting the radio on and having a little jig around the room, having a drink of water, feeding your body well. Yeah. It's all part of, there are so many elements that come into health. But I think the biggest one, just move.
Yeah.
Move more.
Yeah. And I do think it works very much hand in hand with what you said earlier on, because most people use the excuse, as we all do, that, but if I just finish this month, then next month I'll start. Oh, let's think about New Year's resolutions, the most common one for everyone. Yeah. I'll start. My New Year's resolution is I'll start exercising. It's like, well, why wait for New Year? Why not just start doing it immediately? And also the other thing is schedule it in for yourself, get committed to do it. As an example, just say, a Saturday morning if you want to, or a Friday morning if you want to, for 30 minutes, go for a walk with your dog. Or like you said, just in your living room, do a couple of stretches. Just give yourself that time, but schedule it in, because then you're going to become committed to do it. Yeah. And if you use your phone to put it on a calendar, give yourself a little reminder where you go, in 15 minutes, I'm going to go do my stretching in the living room.
Yeah.
Do it, because once you are committed to show up and do it, it will start becoming a habit. And the more you do it over and over again, the less you have to think about, now I've got to do this again. Yeah. It actually becomes fun.
It does. And going back to those questions about how do I feel and what do I need, ask those questions after you've done some exercise. Whether that's you've gone for a walk or a swim or whatever it is, ask yourself, how do I feel? And really, really feel those feelings, because pretty much guaranteed you will feel better than you did before. So when you have that day where you think, I don't want to go out, it's raining or whatever, you can remind yourself, how did you feel before? And that sort of goes back to that whole motive.
Yes.
Okay, I know that if I go out for a walk, I'm going to feel like I've got really good energy. which means if I've got really good energy, I'm going to be able to get focused on that project that I'm working on. I'll feel more energized to have those difficult conversations.
Yeah.
It's being conscious, really, being more conscious. But the excuse that most people make is they haven't got the time.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, it's not that you haven't got the time, it's that you have made the decision not to make health a priority.
Yeah.
End of.
Well said.
Sorry.
No, but it is the truth. And I think if every single one of us is honest with ourselves, that is the truth. You know, we really feel like, yeah, I have not been making it a priority. Yeah, I have made the decision not to do it because, and there's always a because following.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think it just comes to making that decision. That's it. And just doing it. And to be honest, you've just inspired me so much. I'm feeling like after this recording, I'm just going to go and walk my dog. But I really think it's important. And it comes back to just making that decision, scheduling it in, and doing little things. Again, you don't have to jump out of your comfort zone. Do little things. Take that one little step out of your comfort zone, grow the zone, get comfortable with it, and then take the next step, grow with that. The confidence will come. You'll start feeling amazing. You'll start seeing the results over a period of time. And yeah, you'll just feel amazing. So, why don't you want to do something that would make you feel amazing?
And especially in business, if you are on your own in business and you've started and it's just you need that energy.
Yeah.
It's tough to start your own business, and even when you've been in business a few years, it's still tough. And if you haven't got those good habits and you haven't got that energy behind you, you're going to struggle.
Yeah, it's true. It's absolutely true. And what I love about it is, as you're talking, I'm just getting these ideas in my head of things that I want to do, because let's face it, I've picked up a little bit of weight over the last couple of months, and I'm going,
yeah.
I haven't walked as much as I used to. I haven't done my exercise as much as I used to. I need to get back into that routine. And you know what the thing is I'm just so annoyed with myself thinking that I loved it. I used to have a routine every Saturday morning where I would do dancing for about an hour or 2 hours, just a program that I'm following in my living room. And I loved it. I loved the energy, but I've just, get the excuses in the way, and then I just haven't done it. So what happened is I started picking up weight, and now I'm feeling like I need to get back into that because I really enjoyed it and I felt so good afterwards, also knowing that I'm doing something for myself. So that inspired me. So I'm going to start doing it again.
Great.
Well, Lisa, it's been absolutely fantastic having you here on the podcast. Before we go, you've got an amazing what can I say? It's like a guide or 5 steps that you want to give the audience. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, no, and we haven't touched on this, but it's a big part of confidence, I suppose, is that one of the things that can hold us back with, motivation and confidence is the worry about what other people think.
Yeah.
This held me back, for a very long time, pretty much all of my life. Not so much now, but it's still that little gremlin comes in occasionally. And we worry about what everybody else is thinking, and so we don't do anything. We don't write that blog because we're worried that people won't like it, or they won't understand what we've said, or they'll think that we're being showy offy or something. And we create these, we talked about it a bit earlier, we create these massive stories, and it holds us back. And I really struggled with that, especially when I first started my business. I would compare myself to all of the other trainers in the local environment. If somebody did something, I'd be like, oh, okay, well, they've done that, so there's no point me releasing my new program because nobody will come because theirs is so much better. And so I put together these 5 steps how to stop worrying about what others think, because once you let go of that, amazing things happen.
True.
Amazing
Absolutely.
things happen.
Yeah, and thank you so much for making that available to the audience. So for those of you listening, those 5 steps will be below in my show notes. The link will be there. So by all means, go and download it. Just take the time to go through it. And I promise you, it might even give you that light bulb moment that you've been waiting for so long, to help you take that first step out of your comfort zone, really, and then take the next step and the next step. Because one of the things that are holding us back as human beings, is the fact that we keep on worrying about what other people think about us. And this is a whole nother conversation you and I can have separately on this topic, because that's a huge one as well. But you also have an amazing program that is available for the audience. So talk to us a little bit about your program for those who want to take one step further with you.
Yeah, so I've developed this over a number of years of working with clients physically, emotionally, mentally. And I've recognized that there are 4 core elements. One is to be aware of yourself, so looking at your motivation, your confidence, your self-esteem, and your beliefs that go on in your head. So self is the first sort of pillar. Then health, we've talked about health, we look at all sorts of aspects of health, your mental health, your emotional health, your physical health, nutrition, etc. And then the 2 others are intuition and purpose. And I think we don't spend enough time listening to what we already know. I think we are amazing intuitive beings, and reconnecting with that intuition can help you in business, absolutely, can help you in relationships even more. Yeah. So the third one is intuition, and then we finish with purpose. So looking at why are you here? What is it you want to achieve? And that could be the overall purpose of you, or just the purpose that you have at that particular moment in time. So it's called the SHIP program, SHIP, Self, Health, Intuition and Purpose. And it's a 6-week group coaching program that I run on a regular basis. And I run it through a Facebook group. So the training is already pre-recorded and the worksheets are pre-recorded. And then we have a live face-to-face coaching call for the group once a week. So it's a really great way to sort of just take you that next step. If you're feeling stuck in your life, then it's a really good program to sort of take you to that next level.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for telling the audience about that as well. So what we'll do is, if you do want to take that next step, dig a little bit deeper in yourself and just get yourself in gear. Oh my goodness, now is the best time to do it. So the link will be also in the show notes. So if you want to get in contact with Lisa, by all means do that. And I'm sure she would love to help you out and help you go through that process of just being you, just discovering who you really are, where it is that you're going, what is it that you want to do in life, what your purpose is, how to connect with your intuition, which is so important, because let's face it, these days we are so reliable on technology, external stimulations, that we kind of forget how to tap into our own intuition. So I think that's really important. Thank you for making that available as well. It sounds very interesting. I might even go and have a look myself. But no, thank you so much, Lisa. I really appreciate your time being here and sharing all of this with the audience. Is there any last tips that you want to give the audience before we say goodbye?
Just love yourself. Just remember what an amazing human being you are. And remind yourself of that. When you look in the mirror, don't look at all the flaws and the little bits that you don't like. Look into your eyes and remember that you are an amazing human being.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. Well, Lisa, I'm sure you and I will be in touch very soon again. Enjoy the rest of your day. And we'll speak soon.
Speak soon. That's lovely. Thank you.